you've got the Indy Elite squad that has Trent Sisley, Braylon Mullins, Malachi Moreno, Desmond Briscoe, and others. But those are some three big recruits for Indiana that they're chasing, of course, in home visits this week with both Trent Sisley and Jalen Harrelson for the Indiana staff. Trent Sisley has been unbelievably busy. Matt Painter was in on Monday, the entire Indiana staff on Tuesday. Micah Shrewsbury is in for an in-home visit today to see him. So what a busy week he's had. And I'm sure he'll be glad to say, whew, but he's got his AAU schedule to deal with.
Right. I saw that yesterday was a big day that Woodson took his whole staff from LaPorte to Indianapolis to Heritage Hills. So, yeah, it's heating up. We'll see what they do and what more they have to get out of the portal. It's been, so far, they're number one in the portal rankings, and they still have a couple more needs to fill. I guess they need to get a shooter, whether it's Luke Goody of Illinois or
a what? What do you call those?
The shooter.
Are those guys that shoot the ball from behind the arc? I haven't seen those before.
The Florida Gulf Coast kid, what's his name? Josh Anderson, is that his name?
Zach Anderson, maybe?
Zach Anderson. You're right, it's Zach. And then the big kid from Grace College in the middle would be the final two pieces, I would guess. And
it would be a great finish. That would be, I'll be honest with you, pretty damn tremendous. I know that people have complained that and I've mentioned they didn't really get a knockdown shooter, what you would consider a knockdown shooter. And someone asked me yesterday, well, what do you consider a knockdown shooter? Well, I just pulled up the stats, the NCAA stats, and I went to the number 50, the 50th best three-point shooter last year. And it was like 290 three-point attempts. He shot 38%. I'm like,
wow,
that's a knockdown shooter. And there were 49 guys that were in front of him. So that's what I meant. But the guys that they have gotten, Miles Rice, he's very good with the ball, very good point guard, and is going to get better. I'm drawing a blank. Kanan Carlisle,
right?
Everyone talks about him being having been a really good spot up shooter, which I'm like, well, that's great if you can get that, but he'll probably get better. This team is going to be better just because talent.
Yeah, I mean, I think Rice, people I know criticize his three-point shooting percentage, but he's a really good free throw shooter, and that tells me he's got a good stroke. And a lot of times guys improve from their freshman to sophomore years as they get more comfortable playing the game. But as much as we dwell on shooting, to me, the most important thing that I think is how well did those guys defend? Because Indiana hasn't been – when Xavier Johnson was out last year, they were very poor, in my opinion, in pressuring the ball handler of the other team and just getting blown by or getting put in mismatches in the backcourt. And if those dudes can defend, to me, that's almost as important to whether they can make three-point shots. And I think the scouting reports on them is that they are good defenders.
Yeah, and the overall recruiting of Mike Woodson, got to give him credit. And because he heard the criticism or he saw the results or both, but that what he was doing was not working. This going after the superstars, trying to fill your roster with trying to be Duke without having done anything beforehand wasn't going to work. And also played into that, the Indiana class this year wasn't great. Flory Badunga was never really in the window for Indiana, and Jack Benner was gone to Purdue. Those are probably the two best players, but Badunga getting Mr. Basketball for Indiana announced last night. But this class coming up, that's a different story. Indiana wants these guys, whether it's Trent Sisley, it's Jalen Harrelson, and Braylon Mullins. If they can land those three guys, that gets them back, and that'll make the fans happy, but that also gives you a good core of Indiana guys, and boy, can you wrap some portal guys around that.
Yeah, I mean, I think the really good teams have a mixture. You've got to have guys that you get out of the portal, but I think you're better off. It's safer to go to the portal for need. And to me, the most impressive thing though about Woodson, and I've been as critical of him as a lot of people, is there was a narrative back in February, especially after Liam McNeely decommitted, that a lot of the guys on the team were going to leave, and that turned out to be a false narrative, and that all the guys they wanted to come back are back. The guys that they lost, I don't think, nobody's really saying they're going to suffer because Peyton Sparks and CJ Gunn and Caleb Banks are gone. And if you look at the programs they went to, I mean, Sparks went back to Ball State, which is where he probably should have stayed. CJ Gunn went to DePaul, which has been a bad program for 20 years, and he's going to get ample playing time, ample opportunity to take shots for Chris Holtmann. And Caleb Banks stepped down to Tulane. It's not like he went to an SEC program. He went to Tulane. So they're getting – I think they've definitely improved the roster with the guys they have coming in. They still got a little bit more fine-tuning, and Mike Woodson has to let up on the reins a little bit and show that he will actually create shots for people, and then we'll see what happens. And
yeah, I think that and I'm just going to be brutally honest, his laziness in recruiting of just saying, we'll get these big guys and that'll be okay. It didn't work out, as I said, and saw that, and that you're going to have to put the work in, get guys that actually fit, get guys that actually will build a roster that is not just a hodgepodge. And now I guess Indiana fans' biggest fear is, with this much talent, that there's been so much talk. Well, they're deep last year. They're deep. No, they weren't. They weren't. Now, especially if they finish this with these guys we've talked about, now they're going to be deep. You got to, like Luke Goody, or if they end up getting Luke Goody, you got a guy on the bench that shoots freaking 38%. That's a good one to have. And the NAIA guy, who knows? Just because he played in NAIA, we see it. We saw the Steph Curry Goki, Jack Goki, who just obliterated Kentucky. He played at Division II, so it doesn't matter. I think that talent is talent, and we'll see. But Indiana is going to be deep. Mike Woodson is actually putting a team together for the first time in 4 seasons. I mean, they were solid. I mean, before they had Trace Jackson Davis, but this is depth.
Yeah, I agree. And I think one key difference is last year at this time, he was going through knee surgery, and that hurt them in terms of what they were trying to do. I know that I read the story that Pat Forty wrote about Dalton Connect, and he made 2 visits. The second one was to Tennessee, and he was going to come to IU, and he had to postpone the visit or cancel it because Mike Woodson was going to have knee surgery. Not saying he would have come to Indiana, but he would at least considered him, but that no longer became an option because Woodson wasn't available. So he seems like he's learned a little bit this year about, you got to grind a little bit harder than he has been grinding to get out there and visit guys. And, Shrewsbury and Painter do that. They've been to a bunch of Heritage Hills games, and I think more than Mike Woodson's been to. And so we'll see whether that makes
substantially more.
Yeah. How much of a difference that makes in terms of Trent Sisley and where he decides to go to college. Did you note that a crystal ball went in last night for Liam McNeely?
I did not. Where to?
UConn, baby.
Very smart move for both.
He visited UConn last weekend, and I saw a couple crystal balls went in for Liam McNeely last night to UConn.
Not a bad place for him to go, although I don't see them winning 3 times in a row. But hey, Hurley has done an unbelievable job because he wins the second one. The difference between UConn and Florida, what Florida did with the same team, basically, it was like right. Indiana when they should have gone back to back. 75. That the issue with Scott May breaking his arm.
Right.
They had Larry Bird.
When Duke went back to back, Grant
Duke
Hill
was the
and
same
Christian
team.
Laettner and Hurley
Florida was
and
the
Thomas
same
Hill all
team.
came
Duke
back.
was the same team. UConn lost 75% of their offense and 3 guys to the NBA and replaced that and won a national title. That's nearly impossible.
And Hurley lost none of his edge. I think he was more fiery and demonstrative and engaged this year than he was last year. I mean, he was obsessed, and he did a lot of really intelligent things in the offseason. He talked to Billy Donovan about what ddid you do to keep your guys motivated and when did you push the buttons in terms of to drive them and things like that. He's a sharp dude. He really, I think he wants to succeed at levels that very few coaches have succeeded. And I think, I think he will, as long as he's up there at UConn with the resources they have. And they made a smart decision. They kind of lost their mojo in part when Jim Calhoun left, but they also lost a little bit of their mojo because they were on
sanctions.
They got into football. No, they were into foot. They got out of the football conference they were in and went back to the Big East, and that's helped their basketball program. Their identity is this is a basketball school, and this is where the resources are going to basketball. And they've got the women's program and the men's program, and it's hard to say it's not the 1-2 punch the best college basketball place in the country.
Without question, they are the new blood. And I get so sick and tired of people wanting to argue who's a blue blood and who's not. First of all, I don't think they understand a blue blood. A blue blood is over a long period of time, sustained excellence. And I don't think you unbecome a blue blood as long as you are still in the conversation. Like Indiana is the greatest point of that because there's no question they're a blue blood, but they haven't done jack squat they have not lived up to that status. They've
been an underachieving blue blood. That the passion to win and the pressure from the fan base is blue blood level, but the results that the product they've been given has not been blue blood results. And that's why when the program has the kind of year it had this year, why people got so angry.
Exactly. But I blame a lot of that on the administration because they were involved in so much of the wrong decisions that got made. I mean, I could sit here for an hour and talk about that, but and it's not, but they need to get back to that because I've said this 1,000 times, NIL and the transfer portal were the greatest things to come along for Indiana to get back to being a blue blood that there could have been. It was like they were handed this road and like, here you go. Here's all you need. And haven't managed it yet. I think a big part of that was Mike Woodson coming in, having Trace Jackson Davis thinking, okay, well, we can do this. And well, yeah, you can be okay. And then you saw what happened the next year and then the next year. And then he's had to learn a lesson the hard way. But now you have to say he learned a lesson, and it should be a fun year.
Yeah, I think what you're saying is when you look around some other Big Ten teams, they don't have the NIL resources that Indiana has. So you got places like Iowa losing Tony Perkins, places like Illinois losing Luke Goody, places like Minnesota losing, I think their best point guard went in the portal. Wisconsin's been wiped out. Hepburn, Asigian, and Storr all leaving. That's a significant advantage. Indiana lost guys, but the guys they lost were not starting players. They're reserve players. So if you have that big of an advantage in NIL, you better take advantage of it and get better players. And then Woodson better take the next step and do something with it. If you've got a $3 or $4 million edge in NIL and you've got better talent, you better win.
Well, there's no question that the pressure on him to win this season is going to be there. And it should be. That's part of what goes along with it. You're getting paid well to do that. The players are getting paid well to do that. That's the only thing I worry about. Like I said, I would never take a guy who says, well, I need to be guaranteed a starting spot, or I need to be guaranteed 25, 30 minutes a game. I would say, dude, if you're that good, then you'll earn it. that you'll get it. It'll be handed to you. But if you're not willing to fight for it, you're not going to fight to play. You're not going to fight to win. And you got to have fighters. That's where some of the toughest is taken. But there are some guys that are just like that naturally, and they're going to give it to you.
Yeah, because if you really believe in yourself as a basketball player, you think you're going to be the one who plays. And if you're also somebody who believes you're going to play in the NBA, you're definitely going to have to make your way there, because Trace Jackson Davis is one of the greatest players of all time in Indiana, and he had to make his way in the NBA, and he did it. That's just the nature of the beast. To get to reach your absolute potential, you're going to have to knock some other people out of the way to get there.
Hello, everybody. Jim Coyle with Indiana Sports Beat Radio, and thank you for enjoying our content and videos. And make sure you hit that subscribe and notifications toggle so you don't miss out on anything, whether it's Indiana Hoosiers, the Boilers, the Colts, the Pacers, Indiana high school action, whatever's happening in sports. We're trying to bring it all to you, and make sure you don't miss out on a thing. Again, hit the subscribe button for us. Helps us out a ton. We appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you so much.